When you think about plumbing, it sounds pretty simple, right? Pipes, water, drains. What more is there to it? Well, what if I told you there's a town in America where every plumber has to be part scientist, part historian, and honestly, part warrior? Today, we're going to look at how this everyday trade turns into a high stakes battle against the elements in Chalmette, Louisiana. I mean, seriously, just think about that for a second. A constant, invisible war happening right under your feet, inside your walls, day in and day out. Well, for the folks living in Chalmette, Louisiana, this isn't just some hypothetical question. That war is very, very real. And believe it or not, the battlefield is their plumbing. Okay, so to really get what's going on, we have to look at the battlefield itself. Chalmette's geography. Man, it creates this perfect storm of conditions that are just brutal for plumbing. So let's meet the enemies, one by one. First up, you've got the water. I want you to picture the ground like a sponge. It's totally soaked. That's Chalmette. This high water table means groundwater is pushing up constantly on the sewer lines. It's always looking for a way in, trying to force itself into even the tiniest cracks. And you can bet it can overwhelm the whole system when the rains get heavy. All right, next on the list is the ground itself, the very soil the pipes are sitting in. The soil in Chalmette is full of clay, and it basically acts like a giant muscle. When it gets wet, it swells up, and when it dries out, it shrinks. Now, this movement isn't just a gentle nudge. No. It literally squeezes and bends the pipes until the joints snap and the pipes crack wide open. And hey, if the ground and water weren't already enough to deal with, the attack also comes from the air. You've got this humid, salty air blowing in from the Gulf, and it is an absolute nightmare for anything metal. It just massively accelerates rust. We're talking galvanized pipes that might last 60 years somewhere else. They can be rusted through in as little as 40 years in Chalmette. It's wild. And then there's the ghost of the past. The floodwaters from Hurricane Katrina. They messed with the foundations of homes all over the area. And here's the crazy part. Even today, years later, those homes are still settling. It's this almost invisible slow-motion shift, but that tiny movement puts incredible stress on the plumbing, right where it connects the house to the city lines. It's basically a ticking time bomb for pipe breaks. So with all that going on, what happens when the plumbing starts to lose the fight? Well, the warning signs are anything but subtle. And for homeowners, it's just a constant, massive headache. And you see this list? These problems aren't just random bad luck. Nope. They connect directly back to all those environmental things we just talked about. That high water table, that's your chronic sewer backups right there. The salty air, yep, that's why you're seeing brown water from corroded pipes. It's this perfect, brutal storm of cause and effect, and it leaves people in what feels like a constant state of emergency. And this quote really nails the scariest part of the whole thing. A home's plumbing can seem totally fine, for years. But then, after just one too many seasons of that clay soil swelling and shrinking, pop, a pipe gives way, and suddenly you've got a full-blown disaster on your hands with absolutely zero warning. But look, this isn't just a story about problems. It's a story about human ingenuity. It's about adaptation. Because in response to this constant assault from the environment, the plumbers in Chalmette have had to evolve. Their job has become a genuine science, a way of fighting back with specialized knowledge, special materials, and a deep, deep understanding of what makes this place unique. And you can see that evolution right here. A standard plumber might use rigid glued joints, but in Chalmette, no way. They use flexible mechanical joints that can actually absorb that soil movement. A standard faucet would rust out from the salt air in no time, so they have to install special corrosion-resistant ones. It's the perfect example of why you can't just have a one-size-fits-all playbook. Every single decision has to be tailor-made for the environment. And this stuff isn't optional, These aren't just good ideas. They're hard-won lessons that are now literally written into the local building codes. For every single one of those threats we talked about, there's now a mandated solution. The high water table and floods? Boom, backflow preventers are now required to stop sewage from contaminating the water supply. That shifting soil? Codes demand those flexible mechanical joints. It's really smart. It's turning local pain into life-saving policy. So when an emergency does happen, the way the pros respond is just as specialized. It's all about bringing order to total chaos. First, they get there fast, under an hour, to stop the immediate damage. Then, they figure out the real root cause and explain it clearly. And finally, the repair is done with the right materials for Louisiana's climate, materials that can actually handle these conditions, and they back it up with a warranty. It's not about a quick fix. It's about solving the problem for good. Okay, so we've just gone deep into the plumbing battles of one very unique town. But now let's pull back for a second, because there's a bigger lesson in all of this, and it really applies to every single one of us, no matter where our home is. Right now, you're probably thinking, okay, that's pretty crazy, but I don't live on the Gulf Coast. And that's fair. But the specific issues, the clay soil, the salt air, that's not really the point. The idea behind it is what matters. Because here's the big takeaway. Chalmette is for sure an extreme case, but it points to a truth that's universal. Your home isn't just a box you live in, it's a complex system that's constantly interacting with its own unique environment. The soil it's built on, the local climate, the history of the area, all of these things are telling a story and affecting everything from the foundation right up to the faucet in your kitchen. And understanding that story, that context, is everything. Which kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. The story of Chalmette is written in shifting clay and corrosive salt air. So, what about your home? What's its hidden story? What are the invisible forces shaping its reality right now? Because figuring that out, that's the real first step to protecting the place you live.